Hey everybody, Thursday, February 24th, 2022, another Ask Me Anything for the Linchpin private track. Members submit questions, other members upvote them, and most popular few get chatted about each week. So let's dive right in. The first most upvoted question is on recovery, and it's from Jessica C. She says, recovery, whether that be part of your nutrition, vitamins, supplements, etc. As we grow older and wiser, we'd like to think, and we continue to work out and lift, what are you doing to help mitigate soreness and maximize your rest days? So, yes. And she says, I'll add to it, small children and managing the recovery with less than ideal sleep. You nailed it right there. So, you're going to notice a recurring theme at Linchpin, right? And I consider it actually one of my most important duties to all of you, which I take profoundly seriously, which is, to the best of my ability with all that I've been able to experience and learn in, going on a couple decades here of CrossFit stuff, what works, what doesn't work, get the noise out, get the clever marketing out, and get down to the brass tacks of what actually works and works really well. And that's what Linchpin's all about. No fluff, just what you need, everything that you need, and nothing that you don't. So recovery kind of falls into that as well. So here are the notes that I put down so I didn't get too off track this morning. I put down nothing fancy. That's the first thing that I said. The basics work over and over again. I don't do any supplements. I don't do any vitamins, things of that nature. I've played around with both for sure. And the more that I've learned, the more I have stopped doing anything with vitamins and supplements. That's just my personal experience. That's what life has taught me. That's what research has taught me. That's what talking to people who I consider far more of a subject matter expert in that field than I am. That's what all of that has led me to believe. And one of them being, and I say this all the time because it's true, if you're not watching or listening to E.C. Sinkowski from Optimize Me Nutrition in her podcast, The Consistency Project, you've got to. I mean, she's always talking nutrition, lifestyle factors, sleep, things of that nature, what actually moves the needle, what doesn't move the needle. And she's one of those people that I admire because she's got no corporate sponsors to keep happy. She's only interested in the truth, period, end of story. And she's profoundly intelligent in that area of the world. And she has the technical know-how and actually reads the studies and reports that none of us do. Most of us just go, oh, my favorite athlete takes this, it must work. Yeah, your favorite athlete takes that, and a check goes to their bank account every week so that you will watch them take it. Doesn't mean that it works. And there's a good chance that once their sponsorship stops, they won't take the product anymore. So EC doesn't have to deal with any of that. It's just what works. And did the study or clinical trial or whatever it was actually support what the product is saying that it does? Or did they take just a small slice of the whole pie's worth of data and they're just showing you the one slice which paints a different picture than had you seen the whole pie? So again, there's a lot of noise and fluff in nutrition and recovery and fitness in general, and we try to cut through that. So getting back to it, nothing fancy. The basics work over and over again. And I will say that with regards to recovery, I do not walk around sore on any sort of regular basis. I do not live that life. Every now and then I do, for sure, but not on a regular basis do I wake up every day head to toe sore, feeling like a train hit me. And if I did, I would think that I would have to adjust something. Now, I did that when I was first getting into CrossFit and didn't quite know what I was doing, but that's a different deal. I don't live that life anymore, and I don't think it's an intelligent way to live, and you shouldn't be putting yourself through that. So getting back to Jessica's question, with regards to recovery, the two key factors to me that are far superior to anything else is sleep and nutrition. Not fancy, not flashy, probably knew those answers were coming, right? But why did you know that they were coming? Because they're actually monumentally important and they actually make a difference. And so, yes, sleep and nutrition for sure. They're more powerful than anything else. You should do your best to improve on them. Like I said, go back to EC's podcast as well. And the sleep thing, we live in the real world, right? And there's a difference between what's optimal and ideal and sometimes what's real. And all of us have to play this juggling act and make these little sacrifices unless you are, and I hope that you are, in some sort of position in your life that you are profoundly independently wealthy. You don't have to work. You're just living a life of leisure, so sleep's not an issue, your schedule's not interrupted, every meal's wonderfully prepared, and that's fantastic. Sadly, most of us aren't there yet. And so we have to make choices, or everything's economics, right? You have a scarce, limited amount of resources, and you need to allocate those resources in many areas. You've got to get stuff done, you've got to sleep, if you've got children, you have to take care of them, you have to earn a living, you like to work out, there's meal prep that has to happen, the house has to get cleaned, etc., etc. And so you may not always get the ideal meal that would not produce inflammation in your body and not make you feel heavy and lethargic. And that might not always happen. But if you're trying to make the better choice as frequently as you can, and every now and then it's less than ideal, but you're always attempting to make the better choice, you're going down a good path. Now, what does the better choice mean? That's a 4-hour podcast in of itself as to nutrition, which is why I would point you towards Optimize Me Nutrition. Dive into that as much as you want to figure out what would optimum nutrition look like for you. But try to make the best choice you can as frequently as you can. Life will disrupt that every now and then. That's okay. One bump in the road doesn't derail you. It just takes, you're just one meal away from getting right back on track. We say that all the time. And with the sleep, I've got 3 kids, like I said, one being an 8-month-old girl who is not as much of a hand grenade as she used to be, but she's still an 8-month-old little baby, and so things are disrupted. I don't get as much sleep as I ideally would like to get. I look forward to the day when that can change, right? Some days I think I'm going to get in bed at a great time, and I'm really happy because I'm like, I'm going to get a full night's sleep, and then one of our other 2 kids just has something come up. There's a little extra chatting that occurs by the time we go to bed, or so-and-so's got a headache and a sore throat, and they wander into our room, and then I'm up again. Like, it just happens, right? It just happens. So, to the best of your ability, getting in bed at a good hour, getting up at a good hour, and getting your body that rest, you're not going to vitamin or supplement or foam roll or do anything that's going to replace actually just getting good quality sleep. Period. End of story. And like I said, there may be some factors that at this point in time in your life you can't control, and you can only get the sleep that you can. That's real life. That's a real conversation. Sometimes I think too many articles and journals just paint this ideal world as to what you should do, and it's like, right, gotcha, but I'm not there and I can't do that right now. So get what you can, and when it improves, get more sleep. But you cannot replace sleep, you cannot replace nutrition, you can't vitamin or supplement your way out of that. The other thing I would say on top of those 2 that I have personally found a really big deal for recovery, and like I said, I don't walk around sore, I don't walk around like a truck hit me. Every now and then, after a particularly spicy one, but most of the time, no, has been modulating intensity. And as you know, in the Linchpin Private Track, the Facebook group, every Friday I post a video with regards to what are the upcoming week's workouts and what is my plan for modulating intensity on those workouts. So, and I always pin that to the top, so make sure you check that out every Friday. That has been a game changer as well. And that's something that when I was first getting into CrossFit, didn't know what I didn't know and all this. And I thought, well, CrossFit's high intensity, and high intensity means maximal intensity. And every time you walk into the gym, you should just try to murder yourself when you're laying on the ground afterwards, just non-ambulatory, non-communicative, hyperventilating. That's how every workout should be. That's CrossFit. That's ignorant and inaccurate and not sustainable. And I did that for far too many years because I didn't know any better. And I don't do that anymore. Now there's 5 workouts that we do over the course of the week. Thursdays and Sundays are rest days. And out of those 5 workouts, I probably really stomped the gas on 2 of them. So that's just 2 out of 5. For all you math nerds out there, that's 40%. So I'm only like stomping the gas 40% of the time. That's why I also don't walk around beat up. And out of those other 3 workouts, right? 2 of the 5 I stomp the gas. That leaves 3 workouts. 2 are probably moderate intensity days, and there's a heavy day in there. So it's good to go. Now, if I stomp the gas and try to just go bonkers every single workout, every single day, I would be trashed every day and not recovered and overtrained, however you want to phrase it, overtrained, under-recovered. And that would not be the life that I would want to live. That would not lead to actually me improving my overall health and fitness because, again, it's not sustainable. And I'm eventually asking to get worn down, asked to get something tweaked or a little injury or something because I'm not giving my body the time that it needs. So that's not what I'm looking to do personally. I will also say what helps me with recovery. I cherish my rest days. And today's a rest day. And I very much look forward to not doing a darn thing. And I will do the same on Sunday, on my other rest day. I will cherish it and not do a darn thing. That's just me. Okay, so that also shouldn't be taken as that's what everyone should do. If you enjoy doing like a light workout, just something like a warm-up-ish kind of thing, you get moving, get the joints moving, the heart rate gets up a little bit, and then it's not taxing you in any way, shape, or form, and then you just do a nice, comfortable stretch, some active recovery, great. If that shouldn't tax you more, but if that makes you feel good on your rest days, active recovery sort of stuff, have at it. But I personally, for most people, wouldn't recommend getting in a workout because for most people, most of the time, I don't think that's going to be a smart long-term play and it's not going to help their recovery. As we all know, there are some folks out there that do like to move, so to speak, on rest days. And for some of them, treats them very well. Great. That's why every human being is not the same, and there's a little bit of a learning curve with each person to find out what just makes you hum, what's perfect for you. And a little bit of experimentation is going to be needed for you to feel where's that sweet spot for you. Is it a bit of active recovery? Is it not? Is it pressing the gas 2 out of the 5 workouts each week or just 1? Or is 3 your sweet spot? Whatever it happens to be, allow yourself to find what that is. And allowing yourself to find where your boundary or threshold is means you're probably going to have to cross it every now and then, right? And push a little bit too much or not push enough. And that's just the give and take of learning. And in strength and conditioning is no different than how we learn anything else. Human beings learn through mistakes. You get knowledge, but then you have to actually make mistakes as well. And through that learning process, you understand what is appropriate. Strength and conditioning is no different. Now, a mistake doesn't mean that you go far too heavy and blow your back out. That's not a mistake that I'm talking about in strength and conditioning. A mistake would be, on my rest day, I tried to get in a little something and see how I would feel. And as it turns out, when Friday rolled around, I didn't feel better. Like I know what I feel like because I normally don't work out at all on my rest days. And Friday I feel pretty good. So now I tried doing something on my rest day, and I don't like it. That's the experimentation that we're talking about there. So yes, modulating intensity, not murdering myself every day, taking my 2 full scheduled rest days. I will also say what helps with my recovery and just feeling good in general is I don't have a moment's hesitation or guilt about scaling or modifying a workout. Not at all. If I should scale the loading down, I scale that sucker down. If I just didn't get the sleep that I wanted to the night before, and as I had looked forward to the week, I'm like, oh, this is one of the days I'm going to just drop the hammer. This is a wheelhouse workout for me, and I'm going to smash it. I'm going to feel good. I should be able to get a good night's sleep. But then something happened in life that did not allow that to occur. I did not get a good night's sleep. And even though this is my wheelhouse workout, I walk into the gym, and after the warm-up's over, I'm like, not feeling how I wished that I was going to feel. Okay, scale or modify. That scaling or modifying could be scaling the number of rounds, scaling the rep, knocking down the loading, or keeping the workout as it is and scaling the intensity. I'm just going to go casual. And I used to not do that. Again, back in the days when I thought every workout had to be this amazing PR, fireworks, crazy moment of just, maximal effort. I wouldn't allow myself to do that. Since having removed my head from my rectum and starting to understand what's actually the appropriate and long-term sustainable way to do CrossFit, and allowing myself that grace to modify the intensity as needed and just have a workout be done moderately, the clouds have parted and the sun has come out, and I feel really, really good. And allowing yourself to do that allows you to show up every now and then and really drop the hammer because you're ready to, because you're not just killing yourself every day. So you actually feel good when it's time to go for it. And then at least once a week I do a workout not for time. We post one of those every week in Linchpin, but you should always feel authorized to do any workout that you want, not for time. And I certainly take advantage of that. It's just, I've found it anyway to be another really good mental stress relief of not having to just judge myself by the clock, and a physical stress relief. Like, for my body just feels better afterwards, I just move. I move at whatever pace feels good. And all of those things for me personally have significantly helped my recovery more so than any particular vitamin supplement or something like that. But that's just me. If you've had a different experience, post it in the comments. I'd be curious to hear what it is. Okay. Next most upvoted question was from warming up and stretching from Jake P. Jake, here we are. Boom. Okay. So, scrolling. Long story short, let's see. The stretching. His body feels good with the stretching that we're providing here. Warm-ups seem, quite involved. Leads me to two questions. Is warming up more important than cooling down when training? And how much more effective is stretching straight after the workout as opposed to, for example, stretching later that night before bed? And then he says he's, big high five to the amazing Linchpin community. High five right back at you, my friend. Okay, so let's see. Where did I get in this? Okay, so questions like, so in general, we're going to, okay, I'm trying to avoid a rabbit hole here. Questions like, is warming up more important than cooling down? Totally get what you're asking, Jake, and we're going to address it. But I feel like that question is just too binary, right? Like, you have to make the decision. Tell me which one is more important. It's like, we kind of live in a world where they both have value, and they're both important. And pointing to one as the one that's more important than the other would just be, what camp are you in, quite frankly. So both are important, both have utility and value. In an ideal world, you would be able to do both, right? Life would be good. You'd be able to properly warm your body up before the workout, and then once the workout's done, you would have the time needed to do a nice cool down, some stretching, and then you'd go in and just, rock the rest of the day. So I'm not going to tell you which one is more important than the other. Well, maybe that's a lie, because I'm going to give you just some personal anecdotes as well. I can tell you that if you did just force me in this, you're like, no, for you, like, if you could only do one or the other for the rest of your life, you could only warm up or you could only stretch after the workout, which one would you do? I would pick the warm up if I could only do one. But like I said, I would like to do both, and the overwhelming majority of the time I do both. But for me, I would pick the warm up, because even though the cool down is so wonderful, some cool down and stretching to make you feel better the next day and ideally get a little lactic acid out of your system, etc., the warm-up has some great things built in that are also doing what you would like to get out of some stretching at the end of it, such as increasing your range of motion. So for example, a good warm-up elevates the heart rate, your core temperature, improves range of motion, prepares you for whatever that range of motion for the workout's going to be, and kind of wakes up, so to speak, your central nervous system so that you're performing well. And then, in a good warm-up. You start building up to whatever the workout weight's going to be with perhaps, if that's what you like to do, a couple short practice rounds after the warm-up, if it's a mixed modality day. Or if it's a heavy day, you start slowly building up to whatever your working weight's going to be for your first set. And if you're going to try to perform a workout with some manner of intensity, jumping into it stone cold is not a really great way to do it. And so the warm-up is really, really important. And that's on a mixed modality sort of a day. On your classic heavy day, the warm-up is mission critical. To think that any of us could just slide under the bar on a 7x1 back squat day and that first set have it be meaningful probably isn't going to happen for most of us that aren't cyborgs. You're going to need to do an actual real good warm-up and then build that working weight up there. So again, if you forced me into a corner and said, which of the two, if you could only do one, you can only warm up or only cool down, I would make the decision for the warm-up for those reasons stated right there. Lost my place. Where am I? So, now don't get me wrong. I certainly know people who don't warm up or barely warm up. As a matter of fact, don't tell her, but I'm married to one. And it works for them. And as I say to my wonderful wife, yes, it works for you, but I think it works for you now. And I think there will come a time, sometime in the future, where that will not work for you. And she'd be the first to admit that even though it works for her, she knows it's not optimal or ideal. So I can't get away with that. I have to warm up. Now, I certainly have blown off a warm-up or really shortened it, especially in the last 8 months with baby life, when time has been precious. I've done whatever I needed to do on that day, given the time that I had allotted, so that I would get some fitness in, and fitness would be achieved, and I would not blow that off. But when I have the opportunity, I'm warming up and I'm taking it seriously, and I can tell you 10 times out of 10, everything goes better when I do that. Let's see. And the interesting thing too is, depending upon how you create your warm-ups, and I put a lot of thought into the warm-ups that we do on Linchpin, there's stretching built into the warm-ups or hidden into the warm-ups. And depending upon whether or not you are a tight person or a flexible person, it may be more or less obvious that there's stretching, so to speak, built into the warm-ups. For example, I've got very tight shoulders. I've been very open and honest about that. If there are jumping jacks in the warm-up, as funny as it is, I can feel my range of motion from my hands getting over my head and the jumping jacks improve as the jumping jacks go on. So yes, I'm elevating my core temperature. I'm doing a warm-up, but even that simple warm-up of jumping jacks is improving my range of motion, which is the point of stretching, even during the warm-up phase. And for example, another great one is the Bergner warm-up. So if we have a multi-round workout, and let's say it's a 2-round, not workout, warm-up, 2 rounds of a warm-up, and in each round you're going to do the Bergner warm-up. You do the Bergner warm-up, some other stuff, and in the second round you do the Bergner warm-up again, some other stuff. Yes, it's called the Bergner warm-up, right? It's not called the Bergner stretch. But the Bergner warm-up is, quite frankly, not only a series of movements that gets the flow and the technique for the barbell snatch into your head, into your central nervous system, and gets you that beautiful practice of coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance, those neurological components. But the way that you're moving your body is in a dynamic sequence, and you're kind of doing a dynamic stretch, so to speak, while warming up. It's a fantastic thing, which is why we try to put it in there at least a couple times a week, because there's so much benefit to something like that. Let's see here. I mean, I can tell you for sure that the second Bergner warm-up that I do, if it's a 2-round kind of a deal, compared to the first time I touch it in the warm-up, feels so much better. The overhead position feels better, squatting below parallel feels better, so my range of motion is improving during that warm-up, which makes the warm-up so critical, not only to get your body ready to work out, but we put things into the warm-up intentionally that, whether you realize it or not, are helping your range of motion. So you're kind of killing a couple birds with one stone. Not that I'm advocating you kill, wildlife. All right, let's see. For cooling down and stretching, like everything else in the world, and like everything else we've chatted about a bunch here, you can find whatever literature you want, from some highly credentialed academic that has two different paths on warming up, and they both are adamant that they're both right, and same on cooling down and stretching. You can find some that say cooling down is nonsense, and you can find others that say cooling down is mission critical, and if you don't do it, you're jeopardizing your health. So blah, 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 kind of to that. One of the most important things, and I truly believe this, and life has taught me this, and all my experience in CrossFit and lecturing and all of this has taught me this. You are your own laboratory. You really are. And you're a very powerful and meaningful laboratory, and you should take how you feel really seriously because everybody's just a little bit different. So my question to you for cooling down and stretching, because you were asking which is more important, is how do you feel? That's what matters. In an ideal world, getting back to the ideal, I would love to see after the workout ends that you've got 5 to 15 minutes to casually walk, jog, bike, row, and mix that with ideally some light movements or unweighted movements that resemble a little bit what occurred during the workout, so that you're flushing a little bit of that lactate out of your body, which ideally would make you feel better the next day, which that kind of gets back to the initial question we had from Jessica about recovery. And so if there was squatting in the workout, and maybe you're going to pedal the air bike for 10 minutes, and every 2 minutes you hop off the air bike, you do 5 slow air squats, you hop back on, you pedal for 2 minutes, you hop off, you do 5 slow air squats, you do that for 10 minutes. That's not bad at all. You get in 10 minutes of pedaling, you get 25 slow air squats in there, you're probably going to feel better the next day than had you not done something like that for a cool down. And then after your cool down, some basic stretches. And we put a couple basic stretches into the Linchpin private track every day, depending upon what we're doing. If we're doing just a JT, which is like all upper body, then there's probably not going to be a lower body one. We'll probably have multiple upper body stretches, but in general, we'll give you a good tried and true lower body one, a good tried and true upper body one. There's a variety we kind of go through over the course of a week or two of the classic ones that we have found work really, really well, and they're time tested, and that's why we do them. And the other goal on that is to basically to expose you to some various stretches, quite frankly, so that you can explore a little bit and find out what works for you. And I would say feel free to dive in and explore and expand your palette on that. So if you want to stretch for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and that works into your day, fantastic. You can do a quick little Google search and spend the next 3 months of your life getting lost on the literally countless ways that different people believe you can stretch or improve the range of motion, and different camps have different methodologies and all that, and you just may have to play and experiment and find what works well for you. But each person is going to be a little bit different, but like I said, you are your own laboratory, and I can tell you after doing this for so long, every single day of my life, after every workout, I stretch my hip flexors. I do the wall stretch, the couch stretch, whatever you want to call it, after every single workout. I don't care if the workout is nothing but strict pull-ups. All I'm using is my upper body, right? 0 legs. I'm going to stretch my hip flexors for 2 minutes per side after that workout, because for me and my body and what I have going on, I have learned that everything in my life is better and feels better when I stretch my hip flexors every day. There's a really good chance that most people listening aren't in that boat. That's because I broke my pelvis, and that put a little bit of an anterior tilt in my pelvis, which messed up my hip flexors as well. That tugs on my lower back, all kinds of good stuff. And I notice the difference between how my low back feels when I'm regularly stretching my hip flexors and when I'm not. But that's my own laboratory, my own experimentation based upon what I have going on with my body. So it wouldn't be appropriate for me to recommend that every single person in the Linchpin community does the wall stretch every single day of their life after every workout, because that's not appropriate, and that's not what everyone needs. What everyone needs is to be exposed to various different stretches, to also be authorized to play on your own find out what really works for you, and then you can embrace those and use those on a regular basis. After a deadlift day, what's really sore on you? Is it your hamstrings? Is it your glutes? Is it your low back from not from compromising your spinal integrity, but from maintaining your back in a rigid position? For me, it's going to be my glutes. I'm going to have to stretch out my glutes. And the hamstrings every now and then. Low back feels good, but maybe to you it's like, oh, low back for sure. Well, you might want to focus a bit more on that. You don't necessarily have to stretch everything in your body all the time. You'll ideally will know the areas that need a bit of attention for you, and that's where you kind of need to really dive in and dig in. And so the goal with what we provide is to just give you the basics that work really well, and that if you didn't ever explore, you may not have to, because we're going to expose you to this number of basic movements and stretches that are time tested, and you can take the ones that you like. But if you want to explore, by all means explore, and the world is your oyster there. Another thing I could say for me is, if the workout has a front rack position, I'm gonna need 10 minutes just to get into a front rack that's not totally disgusting. Again, because of military motorcycle wrecks and what I've done to my shoulders, that's me. And because of what I've done to my shoulders, my lats, for whatever reason, are tight every single day of my life. Doesn't matter if I don't use my upper body at all. For days, my lats are tight every day. I need to roll out my lats every day of my life because of what I've done to my body in my previous life. So again, that's not appropriate for me to say to everyone else. You're your own laboratory. You got to find out what works for you. And there's text that maybe everyone has read or maybe nobody's read that I post every day in the BTWB app on Thursdays and Sundays and the rest days. And it talks about warming up, but you could also apply this to cooling down, and you could apply this to stretching. Here's the text. It's a couple paragraphs. I'm going to read it just in case you've never read it before. And you're like, didn't even know that was there. It says, attention, in bold print. If upon completion of the warm-up you do not feel ready to work out, then continue warming up until you do. Once the warm-up is complete, you can practice the movements and the technique associated with today's workout as you feel necessary, and then you slowly build up in loading until you reach your working weight. When you feel ready, begin the workout. Right? Sounds appropriate. But then here we go. The warm-ups provided could be used forever by athletes following this track. However, they are intended to be used, if needed, temporarily while you educate yourself on creating the ideal warm-up for your personal needs. The goal of the information provided below is education so that you will be able to create the most beneficial and effective warm-up for you. Another great way to use the free time on a rest day is to just Google different various warm-ups. Tons of warm-ups online that are easy to find. You can write down several and experiment. Keep what you like, discard the rest. Repeat this a few times until you build up a nice little group that works for you. I'm a firm believer that no one warm-up serves every single solitary athlete. I feel you personally need to play and experiment a bit. If you have tight shoulders, then cater your personal warmth in that direction. If you have tight hips, ankles, low back issues, whatever it is that is unique to you can be addressed with a little time and a little effort. Let's see. But so, yeah, that's basically kind of what I just reiterated there, right? The warm-ups that I provide, I put a lot of time, effort, and thought into them. They're detailed, and they work really well. But I really encourage everybody, play and experiment, because you're a unique person. You might have something unique going on. Okay, let's see. And some other interesting things just on the stretching thing, because you'll hear people say, your second part of your question. How much more effective is stretching straight after the workout as opposed to, for example, stretching later that night before bed? I would say it's far more effective that once your muscles are already warmed up to go ahead and stretch them rather than stretching them cold. I would feel very confident saying that is a widely agreed upon point. And some people say you should never stretch a cold muscle, which makes sense, but here's the other thing which is interesting because they don't think you're getting any benefit out of it. you also just have to keep your eyes open and see what happens in real life, right? So I'm not a flexible person. I stretch constantly. I've tried all different kinds of things. And I do it, but I'm not a flexible person. And I'm definitely not flexible first thing in the morning. My morning routine for the last 8 months or so, since having a little baby, I'll get her up, set her down on the floor in the living room, maybe turn on a little Mickey Mouse, and then I will sit down with her more in like a straddle position. So I'll have her sitting like between my legs. My legs are open in like a straddle position. And it doesn't feel good first thing in the morning. Hamstrings are tight, low back is tight, again, just because motorcycle wrecks and military accidents is just how my body is. And I'm cold, haven't warmed up, haven't done anything. I'm just sitting down, drinking my coffee, playing with my baby. And if I'm down there for 10 or 15 minutes, over the course of 10 or 15 minutes, I can slowly open my legs a little bit wider and open my legs a little bit wider. And I can lean forward a little bit more as my low back and hamstrings just relax a bit or lengthen a bit, whatever you want to say. So I'm kind of stretching stone cold first thing in the morning with no warm-up, which is not supposed to be effective and you're not supposed to do, but real life demands that I sit down with my child, so I don't care what the clinical data says I should or shouldn't do. I'm going to sit down with my child. And over the last 8 months, I'm here to tell you, my sitting straddle position has unquestionably improved, even though there'd be many experts that say you're doing it wrong. So that's an interesting little conundrum right there. Again, love reading data, love reading fancy blog posts, love reading all that stuff. I'm also a really big fan of just keeping my eyes open in real life and just making observations from real life as well. But I would say I would recommend that you do the stretching once your body is warm. That would be my answer right there. And I'll wrap up this topic with just some stuff which I think is interesting. And I'm curious, if you've got different experiences, please post them in the comments. I'd be curious to read them. Stretching is an interesting thing. And like I said, I stretch my hip flexors every day because I feel the difference and my lower back feels better when I do that. But I don't make any huge strides in range of motion improvement. My lower back just feels better. And I can play this game with a whole bunch of other things. And then I know people who are the opposite. And I stretch all the time. All different types of techniques, okay? From static to dynamic to bands to balls to blah 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 to, rechargeable guns that are supposed to, break up scar tissue and stuff, Then I know other people. I think some people are just born flexible. Like Chuck Carswell, God bless him, love the man. Used to drive me crazy because I was very jealous of him about something. Chuck played college and football, and he's got these like stretch marks across his chest because, like every other male in college, I think the world revolves around bench press. So just bench, 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 bench. And if you're benching all the time and not doing anything else and not going overhead, which he said they didn't do because they were in college footballs, they're just benching, that does not help the range of motion of your shoulders. You're just tightening up your chest and pulling your shoulders together. It's doing the opposite of giving you a great flexible range of motion. And Chuck's got these stretch marks on his chest from just back in the day getting after it. He doesn't do any stretching routine, doesn't do anything. That man has the most beautiful overhead position that we would all be jealous of. And I used to be like, Chuck, how is that even possible? You should be so tight overhead based upon everything you've told me about your life and based upon the fact that you don't do anything to help this overhead position. And after you work out, you don't do some detailed thing to keep the shoulders loose. You just go about your day. He's like, I don't know, just always had flexible shoulders. Well, that's not fair. How does that make any sense? I've met so many people like that are just, these flexible people just are always flexible, and there's the group of tight people just stretching away, and they don't even come close to ever getting what the flexible people have just naturally. I don't know what to tell you about that. It's bizarre. Life's not fair. And my father-in-law is one of these people, Paul. He's in his early to mid-60s, doesn't squat, doesn't do anything like that, and we had him over the garage one time, and actually we were going to put him for a workout and whatnot, and I had him, like Emily showed him an air squat, and he got down into an air squat. Stone cold. The man has not warmed up yet, okay? He's in his early to mid-60s. He had the most beautiful, upright, flexible air squat. How is that possible? It's not supposed to be. It's not fair. Just he's always been that way. Ugh. With my 2 children, I'm here to tell you, Deacon and Nash. I've got 3 children, 2 boys. Deacon's 12. Nash is 10 years old. They're my stepkids, and so Emily, being a former gymnast, she's flexible. Their biological father, former football player, I think he himself would agree, is not a flexible person. I think one of them got one's DNA and one got the other. They're just born that way. Our 12-year-old Deacon, he's just tight. He's born tight. Try to get him into a squat position or whatnot. Doesn't matter how hard he works. It is a total struggle. The joints just stop at a certain range of motion. Why is that? It's just how he was born. The kid will always be tight. I know what his life's going to be like, and my heart breaks for him because I'm living that life. Nash, our 10-year-old, doesn't do anything. He has astonishing range of motion in every single joint of his body. Was born that way. He'll probably always be that way. Why is that? It's not fair. Deacon will probably stretch his whole life, and will never, ever, 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 ever come close to what his range of motion that his brother was just born with. Just born with it. Why is that? Drives me crazy. So, anyway. And there's, again, back to the warm-ups. I'm so sorry. This question has gone on so long. I'm so sorry. But there are just some things that we do that you should hold near and dear to your heart, right? And then if you can do something like one thing for the rest of your life, it is a great test as to how your range of motion is, even if you're not Gumby. The overhead squat with an empty barbell. I've told this to my friend. We were actually talking about this the other day. I said to him, you know what? If I get to the point that I'm 70 years old and I can do 5 or 10 overhead squats with an empty barbell, I have won at life. Because with regards to range of motion and flexibility, what am I going to face in the real world that if I can do an overhead squat with an empty barbell, I won't have the range of motion needed for that? Nothing. So the fact that we're engaging in movements that are demanding of flexibility, by the very nature of what's required to perform those movements, regardless of load, puts you in a camp of people that takes human movement and range of motion and improving that range of motion or maintaining that range of motion seriously. So that's that. Wow, that was a long one. Sorry about that. Should not have taken me that long to answer that question. Jake, you tricked me into going down a rabbit hole. Okay. Last question, then we'll do a little housekeeping, and then we'll be out of here. Oh, I see. Jill says, yep, she's in the tight person group. Jill, I'm right there with you. I watch my wife, as a former gymnast, she goes out and just grabs the barbell, gets it overhead, and just starts overhead squatting, and it looks how it's supposed to look. I'm like, how is that possible? I've never lived that life. Okay, Chris L. asks about, the open starts today. What's my favorite open workout? It took me a while to think of what that was because they just don't stick in my head, to be quite honest with you. But after I thought about it for a bit, a few did pop in. And I can't say that these are my favorites, but these are ones that I do remember and I really liked. And one of them we programmed recently. I think it first came out in 2011, but it was also 14.1. And that's the AMRAP 10 minutes, 30 double unders, 15 power snatches at 75 pounds or 55 pounds. Love that workout because it's a trap. Anyone who knows me and knows Linchpin, I love a good trap, and that workout is a beautiful trap. It's only 10 minutes. The reps are kind of low. The weight is quote-unquote light, and you just walk into the trap. Gorgeous one. Another one I really enjoy is 15.3, and that was a 14-minute AMRAP of 7 ring muscle-ups, 50 wall ball shots, and 100 double unders. And I'm not saying that I like this one because I'm good at it. I hate wall ball shots, and sets of 50 are gross. But it's just a beautiful workout. You've got some weightlifting. The wall ball would be considered weightlifting. Big range of motion on that. You've got a challenging gymnastics movement. You've got the neurological components with the ring muscle up and the double under as well. Some coordination needed there. It's very taxing metabolically. 14 minutes is longer than you want to go. It's big chunks of work. Beautiful workout. And then the final one that I'll say I really liked was 14.4. And we've programmed this one a while back as well. Another 14-minute AMRAP. 60 calories on the rower. 50 toes to bar. 40 wall ball shots. 30 power cleans at 135 or 95, and 20 ring muscle ups. And if you finish it, start it again. Really liked that one as well. There's a bunch of other good ones, but those are the ones that popped into my head. So that concludes the AMA. And a couple short things here. I'm sure everyone's noticed, on the CrossFit Linchpin YouTube channel, there's a new playlist entitled Garage Gym Tours. And I think we've got like 20 or 25 videos on there already from Linchpin members all around the world, shooting videos of where they work out, their workout space, in their home, their barn, their garage, their condo, their whatever. They're all living in that playlist. It's so cool. I've got a bunch more that I'm sitting in my inbox that I need to upload. I'm trying to upload one a day. If you're a member of the Linchpin private track, film your workout space and email it to me at info@crossfitlinchpin.com, and I'll put it on our YouTube channel. And if you click on any of those videos, the information is in the text under the video as to how to submit that. And also, keep them coming. I want to get as many on there as possible. The more, the merrier. I got my Linchpin shout-outs for the day. I got 3 here. This one is entitled Training for Life, Seriously. This is from Scott E. It says, yet another testament to, Linchpin and our fun, quote-unquote, fun programming. I'll be down for a few months after having my knee rebuilt from an old injury. Why is this a testament? Because I'm locked in this straight knee brace for a few more weeks, but I can still function. My physical therapist said, you are having no problem standing up from one leg. Nope. You know how many squats that Sherwood guy programs? Drop something on the floor? No problem. I have all the confidence I can single leg deadlift anything up to 50 pounds. Now it's clicked on me what Pat means when he says CrossFit is for life. This whole time I thought he was talking about a date on the calendar. Now I realize it's actually life. So, very cool. Next one is entitled Traveling and Community. This is from Nick B. Nick, what's up, man? And Nick was traveling. I can't remember if it was for work or vacation, but he wound up linking up with Christopher B. and went over to his garage gym, another Linchpin member. I think this was in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and they shared a workout together and snapped a photo. So, very cool to see everyone getting together. Final one is entitled Set the Example. This is from Amanda E., who, by the way, we posted her garage gym video today. Said, thought this group would appreciate this. I've been training my 12-year-old daughter, who's a soccer player, on and off since the pandemic. More recently, been hitting it twice a week. Today there was no school, and I find out she programmed her own workout and then completed it. 5 rounds. How cool is that? So the kids are always watching, and we're setting the example. Final piece of housekeeping is today the Open kicks off, and Nick was kind enough to set up a live open watch that you can do in the Facebook group, and that will be at 11:55 a.m. PST, 12:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so that's right around noon here in Washington State. I would tune in there with you, but however, Emily and I have a date planned, so to speak. We're going to get out of the house, get lunch together. Life, hectic baby. You got to plan these things, to make sure you still are trying to take care of your relationship. So her and I are going to have a date lunch today, and so won't be able to be part of the viewing party. But enjoy, everybody. Keep treating each other well. Enjoy your rest day, and we'll talk later.